Now let's look at how we can handle component communication in Angular using Angular service. Now, for decorators, why they are great for simple parent-to-child component communication, what we realize is as our application grows bigger, things can become quite messy. So, what Angular service does is it offers us a way to scale for better component communication. So, at a high level, we can think of Angular service as a class designed to hold shared data and logic. So Angular services, they are singletons in the sense that they can serve our entire app. So in this infographic says Angular service contains reusable code logic to be shared across components. They use dependency injection, so it uses the @injectable decorator to make the service available for dependency injection. They can be used for shared state, so maintain state or shared data that can be accessed by multiple components. And then they use reusable functions across different components and modules. I've mentioned this singleton nature. They act as a singleton by default, creating only one instance of the service for the entire app. So services are scalable. With services, we can write cleaner code. Services they pair with RxJS observables, which allow components to subscribe to data changes. We're going to be getting into all of that. Services also use Angular service also use behavior subject, which is a special type of RxJS subject. We use a behavior subject to manage and share data across entire application. In case you're wondering, RxJS is reactive extensions for JavaScript. It's a library for reactive programming. So let's get back to our code. The minute I've reverted back to what we had prior to the previous tutorial. So if you need the code for that tutorial, you have it here. This is the boilerplate code, and then if you need the input and output code, the input and output decorator code that we wrote the other tutorial, the previous tutorial, you can get the code here if you like. So I'm going to go back to our Angular series. So this is what we have. So now we're going to create, we're building a counter app, remember? So now we're going to create counter service, and then we're going to use this counter service across our application. So let's see how that goes. For our counter service, so we're going to use behavior subject. So behavior subject, it's a special RxJS subject. So it holds an initial value and then ensures that any new subscriber immediately gets our current state. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a counter service. So we still have a component here. We're going to be using this component for demonstration. So I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to call it counter.service.ts. So here we're going to define our Angular service. it uses dependency injection, so we have to import injectable here, injectable from Angular core. Then let's import behavior subject from RxJS as well. Import behavior subject from RxJS. Now let's use our injectable decorator. Add injectable. We can provide this provided in root. So when we do this makes the service available throughout our entire application. But I don't think we really need to put this in new Angular, but I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to put it for safety. And then let's create our counter class to export counter service. Okay, export class counter service. Okay, now let's create our behavior subject. So private count. Let's do count subjects, and then new behavior subject. The generic is number, and then let's initialize it to 0 for now. Now we need an observable. It exposes data so that our component can't accidentally overwrite the value that it exposed. So to create an observable, we can do count. So this special syntax. So we can do this dot count subject dot as observable. So this is our observable. Our observable is the source. So our data source. It represents a collection of future values or events. All right. So now let's create an increment method. Increment. These extensions, VS Code extensions, they can be annoying sometimes. Okay, so increment. So we can do this dot count subject dot next. So this next method is a method exposed to us in our behavior subject. So next, and then here we can do this dot count subject dot value. Then we can add 1 to the value for increment, like so. So this dot count subject dot next. This next method is a method exposed to us by our behavior subjects. So it also has a value property, and then we can add 1 for the increment. Now let's undo for decrement. For decrement, let's do decrement, and then here let's say const current. It's going to be a current value. This dot count subject dot value, and then we can do this dot count subject, the next, and then here let's do math.max 0, then current value -1, like so. And then we need one more for our reset, so reset. Okay, we can do this dot count subject dot next, and then we just pass 0 there, so that resets our counter. Now, having created an observable, the way RxJS work is we create an observable, which is our source, and then we have an observer, which is the listener. We have the subscription, which is the connection. We could have the operators, the filters. So we've created the observable, the source. The next thing we need to do is to subscribe to this observable. So let's go to our navbar component. Let's go to here, and let's see how we might subscribe here. Now, to subscribe in a navbar, we want a situation where the navbar doesn't need the parent to tell it what to do. So the navbar hacks the service directly. So to do this, we're going to use async pipe in our template, which offers us a clean way to undo observables without manual cleanup. So you can think of async pipe as a built-in Angular tool that handles the complexity of observables. Okay, so let's leave it at that. So let's go here, and then we have to inject our service. So inside Angular core, let's import inject. Then we need the async pipe that we talked about. So let's do import async pipe. This. Okay, so I think we can do that in here. Async pipe. So I'm just going to get rid of this. So we need async pipe. We already have common modules, so then we have to import counter service, since we're trying to use dependency injection to inject our counter service in this into this component. Okay, so for our imports, let's not forget, let's import async pipe here. Okay, what else do we need? We only have to inject our service. So let's use our service here. We can do private counter service, and then let's do inject, and then here we can pass our counter service. So this is dependency injection. We're injecting our counter service here. Now for our observable count, let's set that to this dot counter service dot count. Now remember, this count, we created it in our counter service. That's our observable, our source, this one. So we're injecting it into our navbar components here, and then we're calling it here. So this way, navbar doesn't have to go to our parent component to ask for data. It bypasses that and goes to the service directly. Okay, now we need to handle some business in our templates, in a navbar template. So inside navbar.html, let's undo this. So we have this icon, we have this badge. So let's have an if statement. So ng if the other time we said if the value of account is greater than 0, we want to display the badge. So this time let's do, so our observable count, and then let's use the async pipe here, and then the no coalescent here 0. Okay, so if this is greater than 0, all right, okay, so I think this, I need to be sure I'm not messing the syntax up. So this is it. Okay, so if this is greater than 0, we want to display our count. So we use our observable count here, and we undo it using the async pipe. Okay, so that should do for the navbar. We need to inject our service another child component, which is counter control. So let's go to our components and see how we might undo that. Again, we need to inject our service. We don't need this anymore. This is from the previous tutorial. So let's do import. No, inject is from Angular core. So let's do inject. Okay, and then here we can do protected counter. So we just inject our counter service. So this should import it like that. So this code injects our service directly into the template. So you see that we're writing this, the code we're writing in this section is much cleaner compared to our input output decorators in the previous tutorial. So let's go to so we've injected the counter service here. Now let's see how we might undo this in our template. So here in our counter control template, let's undo this click event. So btn, this for decrement, this is for increment. So let's pass a click event here, click, and then we can decrement. So to decrement this, inside here we've injected our service. We called it counter. Now inside counter service, our method for incrementing and decrementing, they're here. So this is for increment, this is for decrement, and this is for reset. So we can make use of any of these methods via this counter protected variable. So we can make use of this in our template. So for decrement, we can just do counter dot decrement like so. And then for increment, we can click event, and then here we can do counter dot increment like so. Okay, and then for our reset, we can also pass a click event here, click, and then we can do counter type.reset. So we calling these methods from our counter service using this property counter that we create inside our counter component. So we've injected our counter service, which gives us access to these methods in our counter service. Okay, I think we're done with our counter control. So let's look at how we might use this inside our parent component. Now in our app.cs, we can use our observable here. We can also we can create another counter observable here, and then we can inject our service. So let's import inject here, inject, and then in here we can do count. So that's an observable. Then we can do inject, and we can pass counter service here, and then we can do dot count. So we're injecting our counter service here, and then we're accessing this observable that we created in our counter service, this one. Remember we said our observable is the source. Okay, now let's go to our template and let's see how we might handle this inside our template. So we have current count here. For our current count, let's do this. We can call our count observable here, and then combine it with the async pipe. Okay, so that handles that. We don't need to do anything inside this. We've already handled this inside our counter control template. So you realize that this approach is much cleaner compared to what we did previously. Okay, so you see, this approach offers us something we might call decoupling, because you realize the navbar and the counter controls, they don't need to know about each other or even have the same parent, so they only care about the service. So let's see whether we didn't get any error. Okay, so we didn't get any error so far. There's an issue here. It says the property count does not exist in type navbar. Did you mean what have I done wrong now? Navbar. What is navbar? Oh, sorry. This is a mistake. I'm sorry. What is it? To fix this, import async from Angular Common app.html. Oh, I think I forgot to import that. Okay, let's go back to app.cs. What's app.cs? Okay, we have to import async pipe from Angular Common. I forgot that. Import async pipe. Okay, and then I think we have to add it to our import. array. So async pipe, async pipe, okay, like so. And then let's see whether we didn't get any error this time. Okay, so now our application compiled successfully. Now let's go to our browser. Okay, now we have this. Let me refresh and let's see whether it does the same thing. Okay, so we're getting this 2, 3, 4. Okay, this. Okay. Then for the reset counter, okay, it's working. So guys, that's the Angular approach. Angular service approach to our component communication. I don't want to play favorites, but well, it depends on what you're trying to do anyway. But I kind of like this better compared to the other one that we did. So Control C, git push your origin Angular service. Okay, so so now push this to GitHub. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below. If you want this, okay. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you can get the code if you want. So guys, that's it. So this is the new branch that I just pushed, so you can get the complete code. So guys, this is it for this tutorial. I'm going to see you in the next video.